With non-conference play concluded and Mountain West play starting this week, I guess how would you assess where the team is?
Well, we haven't won a game, so not where we need to be. We've played some really good football teams. Last two games we've been ahead or tied at halftime and lost those games in the second half. We got to learn to finish games and do disciplined football at the end of games. And I think our better days are ahead of us. But you can see, like I told the team in the locker room, you can see it when they're doing it and when they're playing and when they're doing the things we're asking them to do and we're playing right. We can match up with anybody. And if we don't make tackles and give up big plays and turn the ball over, we're not going to beat anybody. So, we got some stuff still to work on, obviously, and we're back at it.
What makes you optimistic about what you guys can accomplish in Mountain West play?
Well, I think there's very good teams in the Mountain West, just like we've been playing. But counting Fresno State, our first 5 games, those 5 teams only had 1 loss on the season. So we've played some really good football teams, and my optimism is now we're standing toe-to-toe with some of these teams, and we're getting in there, and we can play with them for long stretches of time. And if we can be disciplined and hold our composure and continue that for a whole game, we're going to win a lot of football games.
You mentioned holding composure, and you've talked a little bit about when adversity hits, not fracturing. I guess you look at the second half of the Texas State game. Is there a disconnect between, I guess, how they're fighting adversity in practice settings, as you've mentioned, versus when it comes in games? Why isn't that, I guess, clicking?
Yeah, I think you got to play. You got to play loose and easy out there. You just got to have fun, and you can't start worrying about the scoreboard and, oh no, we're ahead 17-0 or it's 10-10, and you just play the game. You play the game every snap, and if you continue to play in the cycle and you get to the end of the game and you don't worry about all those things, you usually win a game. And if you start pressing and worrying about the scoreboard and what you're going to do, then you have untimely turnovers. You miss tackles that you make in the first half, and that's where we got to clean that stuff up. We had a chance in the Texas State game. We were inside their 40-yard line, I think, with a minute to go in the half to go in 24-0, and we had a turnover right there, and then we came out and we had them stopped 2 or 3 times. And in the first drive of the second half, we missed tackles and they got down and scored a touchdown, and then we turned the ball right back over. So, if a few of those things go our way, we control it better. We stay in the moment there and get those situations cleaned up. Those games are much different football games.
There's been quite a few balls on the ground in terms of fumbles the last couple of games, I guess. What would you say the root cause of that is, and is there going to be more, I guess, put on that in practice to make sure that doesn't happen moving forward?
Yeah, I'm a defensive coach, so we work on that on both sides of the ball probably more than a lot of teams because it's so important to our defense to get takeaways. And so we work on that all the time. And I don't know what it is. The previous game when we had them on the ground and we got them back, and in this game, there were a couple good hits there that the ball comes out sometimes, and in those situations you got to be around the ball. Your guys got to be running hard to the ball, and you cover those things up. And Zach Welch covered one of them up for a touchdown, and but yeah, we got to clean that up. But we work on that daily on both sides of the ball, and more than anywhere. With the offensive coaches that I've worked for, we work on it more here because I'm a defensive coach and I know how hard we work at getting takeaways. So somewhere it's got to be connected where we got to hold on to the ball.
Can that kind of get in the guys' heads if they do put it down a couple of times and become kind of a thing?
I think some guys, I don't know, in this situation. I mean, I don't know if you can't hit the curveball, you start worrying about it, or you drop a pass, you start worrying about it. Those kind of things can change, and the only way I know how to fix that is just to practice it harder and get the confidence back if that's one of the factors in there. But certainly we've had, and I don't know, 10 balls on the ground in 2 games, and I think it's more than we probably had all of last season combined. So we got to get that fixed quickly.
Isaiah Sesamo is your guys' leading receiver this last game in terms of yards. I guess, can you walk us through the conversation on having him play offense and how that kind of played out before the start of this season?
Yeah, he worked at receiver some in the spring game, and in the summer he worked at it. And then the other night we were going back to his home state, and we worked him into that game plan a little bit and got him out there. I think he had 10 or 12 snaps in the game. But He was just one of the receivers in the package, and luckily for him, he was in the middle of, they had a corner fire, and he was the receiver that was open, and he got the ball, and then at the end of the game, A.J. found him on a takeoff or a four vertical concept that they kind of fell inside, and so he was in the right place to get 2 big plays for us.
KK Meyer had a big play. I think he's only a redshirt freshman. I guess what's allowed him to get on the field as quickly as he has here?
Yeah, KK was a guy that last year, as a true freshman, twice we were going to go ahead and start him and play him some, and both times he broke bones in his hand, 2 different bones in his hand. So we didn't want to put him out there in a club, so we redshirted him. And in fall camp, we have 3 or 4 or 5 guys that can play corner now, and he's certainly one of the most talented. And he was also another guy that's from Texas that was playing in his home state in front of a lot of family, and was in the right place and had good eyes and had a chance to catch it. And we had a bunch of guys block for him and get him all the way. That's hard to do, get a guy back 99 or 98 yards for a touchdown. But I think he started the last 2 games. He started for us at corner, and he has shown us what he can do.
Last time we talked, I guess 2 weeks ago, we asked about Henry and his situation with the NCAA. You said you were in an 18-day window. I assume that's closed and didn't look like you played. So has there been a ruling on that?
Yeah, the original be careful what I say here. The original ruling was they denied his appeal. We have appealed that decision. There's a couple factors that are different than a lot of the guys. There's a group of guys in college football, and I think you guys have probably read about some of them at North Carolina, Florida State, some of those places, that for a year and a half, the NCAA gave waivers almost every time a guy put a waiver in. And the coaches then wanted to put some guardrails on the waiver process. And somehow in that process, the NCAA decided, with guys already in the portal, that all of a sudden they were going to change course and go hard on the waiver process of guys that were second time in. But a lot of the guys that they're not granting waivers to were already in the portal when that decision came down. On January 9th, when the board decided to start denying waivers, Henry Akifo was already here. He was already here. Henry has only been in the portal one time. He was here. We were a school of origin. He went to a junior college, graduated from the junior college, went to Cal, had good grades at Cal, had some issues over there, and I'll let him talk about those issues, but was getting help with those issues, and then basically was told he wasn't going to be a big part of what they were doing over there. His brother was coming here, and he decided to get in the portal to come play with his brother, where he knew a lot of guys on the team where he was more comfortable. And so we feel like there are a lot of situations there that make his situation totally different than anybody else's. But the biggest part of it is the NCAA in some of these situations is going now saying that the coaches wanted this decision. The coaches wanted guardrails. The coaches, I have not talked to a coach that wanted to punish players who were already in the portal that had legitimate waiver areas of waiver that they could put in for. And for the NCAA to say, okay, today we're going to go and now we're going to stop giving waivers when guys are already in the portal and got into the portal under a different set of circumstances is not what any head coach that I know of wanted, and especially when there's a guy that was already at the next institution, had been in the portal only one time, had done everything by the book, by going to junior college, graduating, had good grades, was not an academic casualty. Every situation that entailed led us to, and Henry and his family, to believe that he had a legitimate waiver. And so we're really disappointed in it, really disappointed in the people who would make that decision looking at all those facts. He did not get in the portal, go to a school, get in the portal, go to a school. He had extenuating circumstances. He was coming back to the school. Like everything in our waiver, and our staff did a great job, our compliance staff and administration, of laying that all out. And I don't know how much it was weighed at the NCAA in the atmosphere that they're going through right now with all the second-time transfers. But Henry, we feel like, is in a different situation. That's why we've sent an appeal to that decision, and we're hoping now that they will see the error in that and give him his eligibility back, which would still give us a chance to play him 4 games or more. And if we only played him in 4, we would have him next year, or we would use him for this whole, depending on how fast that waiver comes. But I know the NCAA isn't trying to hurt mental health, but we are in or very close to the Mental Health and Awareness Month for NCAA student athletes, and it's something that my wife and I have put a giant charge on for our lifetime in this, because of my relationship with the Alinsky's Hope Foundation and everything. And in this situation, I don't think the NCAA is standing up to what they're saying and putting out, and that is something that I hope they see in the appeal, that this young man has got a legitimate reason to still be eligible to play football in the NCAA. Sorry about being so long-winded on that.
I wanted to ask about another Cal transfer, Kalecki Dice, who had probably his best game at Nevada this last game. I guess, what did you guys like about him? What has he been able to show you guys thus far in games about what he can do here in the Mountain West and for Nevada?
Yeah, he's big and he blocks. You know, he's a really good blocker. He's still putting on weight. He's a young guy. He's still got a couple years of eligibility, but he's got, obviously you see how good he is with when he's catching balls, how tough he is. He takes some shots out there because he's always an inside receiver. This week we'll have Dyson Frank back. He's been out since fall camp with a foot injury. He's back. We've got Oliver Stewart playing now. We've got Cam Zeiler. So we're finally getting some guys healthy. Jaden O'Rourke, where we can start getting into some of the personnel groups that we had hoped to be able to put in. Now that we're 4 games in and we're starting to get some of these buys back, but certainly Kalecki he's having a really good season, and he's going to get better and better every time he goes out there with the amount of playing time he's getting, and now with some guys that can rest him a little bit. I think you're going to see a lot more of Kalecki Dice and those guys in these conference games.
Did you recruit his brother at all? His older brother, who's now at UCLA, started at Washington. Did you have a relationship with the family that predated him coming here?
I did not. Derek Sage and those guys had him. I knew his brother, but I was not actively in the recruiting process with him, although he's been a really good football player as well, one of the best defensive players in the country. But Kalecki was recruited here. Angus McClure and those guys knew him. Derek knew him from UCLA, and so we got involved in that. He wanted to catch the ball more. He wanted to be close to his mom and his little sister, so we were a good option for him, and we're very excited he's here for sure.
Coach, do you have an update on Sean Dollars and Ashton Hayes? Saw that they left the field with injuries, and I don't know the severity of them.
Yeah, Sean was cramping. He was getting Sean's getting more run than he's gotten in a while, and it was a little warm. I don't know if anybody was down there, but it was warm down there. So when Ash got a little beat up there, it put more on Sean's plate. I don't know if he was ready or just because of the heat to take that many snaps, and he fought through it. He was back in there at the end of the game in the last drive, but he battled it. He battled. Ashton, we're still evaluating. He's seeing the docs again today to see severity of what he's got going on there. We got fingers crossed that he'll be back soon, but we don't know yet. We don't know what they're still doing the MRIs and everything that they got to do to make sure he's totally healthy before we can get him out. He was at practice yesterday. He didn't do much, but he was out there. So tough guy, and he was having a good game. It was unfortunate. He got a guy just whipped into the back of his legs on a tackle, and it got his knee twisted up a little bit, and those things happen, and hopefully it's better than expected. He's back this week. We'll see today and tomorrow if he can practice.
What does that do for the rest of the running back room in terms of depth? And, Connor Noah was a guy that you spoke highly of in the recruiting process.
Yeah, Connor will be getting reps. Connor, Sean Dollars, Jacques Bartolanto is going to get reps in there. We use Jamal Bell in the backfield. Jamal's having a really good year. We got 4 or 5 backs. Spencer Fireball is having a good camp. He missed a couple weeks. He's back healthy now. So we've got Cross. That's a little bit of a change-up back. We like to get him on the perimeter a little more. Probably got a little bit too much inside run the other night. And if we didn't have Connor on the trip, we didn't bring him. Unfortunately, he'd been on all the other trips, but we didn't bring him this time. But we'll have him this week, and he's a bigger back that can run tackle to tackle in there. So he's still got his 4 games or more to play. So we'll see how that shakes out this week with those guys.
With some of the guys beat up in that running back room, is there more of an emphasis from Brendan to run the ball a little bit more from the quarterback position, or is it play-by-play, situation by situation?
Yeah, I think it just depends on the play. I think all of our plays, most of our run plays have a run-pass option in there. It has a chance for those guys to pull the ball down and move at him. AJ and Shane, all those guys, they have the option on those plays. There's always a second and third option in our run plays, and certainly Brendan's been using it more and more as he gets comfortable in the offense and sees how it's going there. And he took some shots running. We'd like him to slide down, but he's a tough guy and he's running over. He's dipping and trying to run over DBs out there, and we'd like him to protect his body a little bit too.
Oh, we saw AJ move the ball down the field in that USC game, did the same thing against Texas State. What do you need to see from him in practice, assuming that becoming the starting quarterback is still working hard and being the best quarterback in practice? What do you need to see from him to get more reps at that position?
Yeah, AJ's he's unflappable, man. He goes in there and he's got that ignorance of youth sometimes. He's just out there slinging it and having fun, and we need to see a little bit more of that. But those guys compete every day in practice, and if he performs better and we think he's giving us a better chance to win, then he would be the quarterback, and he knows that, and Shane knows that, and everybody in that room. Jackson knows that, Brendan knows that. So they battle, and every time we've called on him in the Idaho game, in the USC game, in the Texas State game, he's performed. He's made some mistakes here and there like every other young player does, but we feel really good about our quarterback room, and that competition is making all those guys better.
Coach, you talked before about playing a full 60 minutes of ball. What exactly goes into that, and how much is it from a mental standpoint of doing that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's mental. If you can play a team and shut them down, and a team that's as explosive as Texas State had been in their first 3 or 4 games, if you can shut them out for a half, then we tell our guys you can do that for a whole game. And all it is tackling. You look at the plays that they got in the second half. We had some bad field position because of the turnovers, but we missed they hit a post that 2 guys missed a tackle and went for 75 yards, and they had 2 long runs in the second half that running backs were hit at the line of scrimmage or just a little bit downfield, and they broke those tackles and ran. If you just make those plays, that's a totally different game. And if we don't put the ball on the ground, that's a totally different ball game. But that's what you have to do to win football games, and whether that's mental, coaching, luck, however that is, we got to get that fixed. And we're looking at every way we can to simplify things, get things right, play hard, let those guys be out there playing and having fun. But if you can do it for a half, you can do it for a whole game. And for 2 games, for a half, we have played really good football, and then the second half, we've let it get away from us. And that's what I think about, and that's my optimism. At the same time, it's what I want to fix, and it's what keeps me optimistic that we still have a lot of really good football ahead of us.
You talked about it before, always taking care of the football, working on it in practice, but especially with Fresno State, I think they forced like 8 turnovers against Arizona State.
They did. Is
it extra this week, or is it always, as you said before, like an emphasis in practice, taking care of the ball?
Yeah, it's always in our scheme. We talk about takeaways equaling victory. Nonstop, all practice long. Every defensive coach is talking about punching the ball out, going for the ball. Every offensive coach does a drill every day on block destruction and takeaways and ball security. and they're all different drills. We start every practice with a tackling and a ball security drill. Every practice started that way from the time we've been here, and we just have to keep grinding on that. I know Vi, he does presentations to the offense, defense, and special teams on ball security, how to secure the ball. So our defensive players practice it, our offensive players practice it, and we've just had two games here. We hadn't had this problem, and in 2 games, we've all of a sudden the ball has been on the ground, and it's been a big factor in 2 games that we had a chance to win. So obviously we got to make a bigger point of it than we are.
You know, it comes up all the time every year when you open up conference play. You know, the slate is wiped clean. Do you take solace in that you know, yeah, the first 4 games haven't gone your way, but you go in with a 0-0 record?
I mean, I don't take any solace in being 0-4. You know, we go 1 week at a time, and we have to win 1 game a week. And as happy as you are when you win games, and as upset as you are when you lose games, you only get to feel that pain or that adulation for a couple days, and you got to get on to the next game. And that's never going to change in this sport. You only get 12 chances, 13 or 14 if you're really good. But you work for a year to get these chances, and you got to take advantage of each one. And you don't let 1 loss make it into 2, and you don't let 1 win turn into a loss because you celebrate it too much. And I've learned that over a lot of years of a lot of wins and not as many losses, thankfully.
Obviously, Fresno has a new quarterback from UCF. What have you noticed about Mikey Keane? Seems like he stepped in and been really good right from the start for them.
Yeah, we knew about him. He's an Arizona guy, so we've known about Mikey, and he went down to USF. He's not a big guy, but he's really active. He's one of those smaller quarterbacks that it doesn't bother him. He's got really good ways of sliding into windows, making all the throws. He can get out of trouble. He can scramble backwards. He can scramble forwards. He's got a great way of getting them into the right play, of using different clap counts and looking overs, and he's really got a mastery of that offense in a really short amount of time. But we knew about Mikey when he was down at Chandler and down in the Arizona football. I mean, he's been a good quarterback for a while. He's got a few more years there too, so he's going to get better and better. We got our work cut out. They got a really good running backs. They've got some wide receivers, one that's come in there, and they've got a redshirt freshman wide receiver that's making some really good catches. So, you play them every week. There's good players in every team you play.
These 2 schools first played in 1923, so it's the 100th anniversary of Nevada-Fresno State. When you think of Nevada-Fresno State, what comes to mind?
I mean, we've been in the same conference. We haven't been in the same conference. We've always had, the Valley. Those guys are blue-collar guys, and Nevada's always been blue-collar, so they've been strong physical games. Most of them have come down to the end. I think back to the 2004 when we beat them for our first conference title as a Division I football team, and I can remember we were in the Big West and they're in the WAC, and we went down there with Coach Sweeney and Coach Alt as the head coaches, and one of the last times that ever happened, and having a battle down there. So these games have always been that way, and a lot of really good players on both teams, and a lot of really good pride in the 2 programs and the areas that they're from, Nevada and Fresno, and they're one of the teams that are a big rival to us, always have been, just like Boise and UNLV. So these are always great games. They got a lot of their head coach, Coach Tedford, is one of the guys I have the most respect for in coaching. He's helped me a lot. I ask him questions every time we're around. He's got a great way of building programs, and Cal and Fresno 2 different times, and he's been all over the college map, and he's somebody that really has a great demeanor with players and how to build programs, and is something to aspire to, I think.
You guys have been close to wins the last couple of games. What do you think it would mean to this team to get that win, and I guess to prove to themselves that they can go out on a football field, play 60 minutes, and come back victorious?
Yeah, I think it's going to happen. They're going to play that way, and I think every win means something. So I think going out and playing free and playing with your teammates, as a group, and playing for the program and the area, I think all those things. But at the end of the day, if you do the little things, play after play after play, and you continue to prove like we are, you're going to win football games.
We've talked a little bit about fumbling. Drew Watts has been on the other end 4 straight games. Is that just right place, right time, or is there something instinctually about him that he is in the right place at the right time and does pick those up?
Yeah, well, he's got great instincts, but I tell you, he plays really hard. And guys that play really hard and are always around the football, they're always the guys that seem to come up with the football. So a lot of young players and players on our own team can learn that. You know, if you're running like a wild man and your hair's on fire, always where the football is, a lot of times you're going to pick it up if it falls out, and he seems to always be around the football because he plays so hard. He plays fearless. He throws his body around, and you know, whenever he's doing that, he reads a play and he goes. He doesn't try to decide whether it's going to be a tackle or whether it's not or whether he needs to be over there. He just gets there, and good things happen. So we try to point that out to all the rest of our players.
Coach, thank you.
Guys, good. Thanks.